Hi, this is Izzy. Going to start drawing with color pencils. Last week I used some cheap pencils and I did something pretty quick. And but I ordered good ones. But it hasn't gotten here yet, so I'm gonna try something different this week. Well, I'm gonna draw with a pen, scan it, put it in the computer, and finish it in Photoshop. So you can see the beginning and the end result. I'm gonna have the picture up here for you to see the end result before I start. And painting like this, it's a little messy with oil or acrylics. I just wanted to try something new, something different with a pencil and color pencils and see what that looks like, the process from beginning to end. But in the meantime, I'm gonna try something different where I'm gonna scan something. I'm gonna draw it first by hand, then scan it into the computer, finishing it in Photoshop. And I'm gonna be using a mouse, not a pen. Those pens don't have that. I'm not gonna buy one right now. I'm using a mouse, so it's a little hard to draw, but that's why I'm drawing it by hand first, scanning it in, and it'll be easier to color it in with Photoshop. So let's see. Okay, so here I am drawing the leopard on a tree. You can see how fast it's going, but it's just 500% of the speed. So this way I'll get it done faster. Well, you'll see it being done faster by doubling this or making it 5 times the speed. So if I had one of those mouse pens, I would have done it all in Photoshop. But since I don't, this is the best thing to do. Draw it by hand, scan it in, and then in Photoshop is easy to color it and adjust it and do the background, stuff like that. Okay, now that I'm done drawing, I'm going to scan the image so that I can pick it up in Photoshop. It's a little process. Got a cheap scanner here that was given to me. So there it is. It's already being scanned in the computer right now as I speak. And voila, in Photoshop. Little adjustments here to the drawing. I can do that on the program now. I don't have to redraw anything or change anything. I do it all in the software. So yeah, seems like I'm moving pretty fast there, but it took a lot longer, the process. I already showed you the beginning from the end at the beginning of the program. I show you the end by the, whatever. I show you the end from the beginning. There you go. I show you the end from the beginning of this picture finalized. So here I am working on the eyes. Kind of went to the eyes first, kind of like you feel the soul of the panther, you know, get that on first before I work my way out from there. As you can see, I grayed the background, put a gray background. I faded the scan so you can pull away from it because I'm tracing over it actually. So that's why it looks kind of gray and faded. It's done on purpose. I work with different layers so that I can have control of everything. Once I use those layers, I lock them in. I mean, it's hard to explain step by step what I'm doing because I kind of go back and forth from layer to layer. But right now I'm working on the details of the eye just to get the feel of it. And I work from there out. Little glow, little highlight of the sun or glare, whatever, on the eyes, make it look like glass. You see how I adjust the opacity back and forth. But the main thing is the drawing itself, which is hard to do in Photoshop without a one of those mouse pens. I don't even know what they call it. And then you have to learn how to use it. Once you buy it, you got to learn how to use it. It's not easy. Some of them you can get a monitor that you can write on top like you do with your phone, and then it's easier to draw on the monitor than it is to draw on a pad and then see your movement on the screen. So it's not just the pen. You got to get a there's a program that they sell.
It's a whole kit. Includes the monitor. You install Photoshop in there, and then you draw right on the screen with the pen. Much easier. It's like doing it for real. So even if I buy a pen, you write on a pad, and then you have to look at the screen, and it's not the same because I've tried it before, and it's not the same. The mouse is worse for sure, but most of the drawings that I do on Photoshop, it's done. It's just fixing photos. When I want to design a logo, I go ahead and I do it in Illustrator. So, and I do that from scratch. And even still, I'll draw something and trace it over in Illustrator. But as you're working with vector, as opposed to working with pixels in Photoshop. So yeah, it's moving along pretty quick. And I will be doing adjustments as I go on. Like right now, as I go along, I saw some things I had to change and redraw on the screen until it finally got finalized. And that is, even though that's still a test, I'm not, I just wanted to throw it out there, see what happens. So don't forget to like and subscribe. The final picture will be, if not already, in Instagram. I'll post it. If you're watching it, you probably could go directly right now and Okay, so I saw something I didn't like. I had to redraw it. So cutting away, drew a little quick graph. Something didn't look right proportionally. But that's the whole idea. Then you can see the defects and fix it. Either I redraw it on by hand or I just do it on the screen now that I have it up there. Not going to start from scratch again. So I erase, cut, move, drew a little graph real quick, adjust it. And that's because I'm rushing. I wasn't taking my time. I'm trying to do the video faster than the actual speed I have it on. But art takes time. Time is money. I'm in the printing business. I design logos. We print. We deliver printing everywhere in Miami. So drawing and selling paintings, I haven't been successful on because I guess I don't know how to sell stuff. And I got my house full of paintings. I ran out of walls to hang my paintings actually. So best thing to do is draw on the computer, do work in the computer, do everything in the computer. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll keep repeating it over and over again as I remember. So it's moving along. Okay, so I'm gonna start adding some color just to bring it to life a little bit. These animals are very vicious when it comes to hunting. Wow. But they have that innocent look in their face, like if they were just a little cat. But when they go after a prey, they tear it apart. But that's how they survive. So, yeah, that orange beige look brings it back to life. Brings it to life. This is just a neutral color that will be adding shadows and highlights, sun glare, stuff like that. The hair is not all the same in one area. It turns kind of white as it goes down. Right now it's a little too bright, but I will adjust. And it's moving along. The spots makes it look better. It looks more real when you start putting those spots, but then the colors bring it out. And I'm drawing behind what I drew on top. So I'm behind that. That that's that's the way you could draw in a different layer without interrupting the drawing you did on top. You can't do that in real life. You have to draw everything in one layer. The paper, that's one layer. But in Photoshop, you can control the layers. So without disrupting the black outline and the dots and the spots, you can actually draw behind it. I go back and forth. I would go above the layer and be behind the layer. Then I lock it so that I won't accidentally draw on the wrong layer. But that's Photoshop. I don't have time to explain how to use Photoshop. It takes like 2 years. It's a 2 year learning curve to actually learn Photoshop. Thank God for tutorials and stuff you can get free online because you go to college, they'll give you a semester of Photoshop very quick, and that's it. The details, you have to learn it on your own or find tutorials for every little section. So many buttons in Photoshop. Besides, if you have talent already, that makes it easier. I started Photoshop without knowing how to use it, but because I know how to draw, it was easy to figure things out. But the more you know how to use the tools, the better the drawing looks. There's a lot of shortcuts. There's brushes and stuff you can download just to speed up the drawing techniques. If not, you have to do it some other way. Go around it until you figure it out. Now I'm working on the tree. Okay, so I'm now throwing the background, some just branches from the same tree and some other trees on the background, kind of make it not very loose, very blurry. I'm going to blur it out a little bit because it, wanted to overcome the leopard. But the leopard is stands out because of the color. But if you look at the branches, it's actually darker in the background. But there's light behind that, and it just gives it a feeling that he's in front of all that. So a little blur will make it look pushed back a little bit. And then I can throw some leaves later on. Sorry about that. I'm not using a regular microphone. I'm using the microphone that's on my headset. And I keep hitting it with my hand. Anyway, there's some foliage that I downloaded. So it does the leaves for you. So I don't have to kill myself drawing leaf by leaf. So there's a lot of tricks you can do in Photoshop. But if you to draw that by hand, you will have to draw those leaves a little bit, a bit of a time, one at a time. Especially if you're drawing with pencils. Then you adjust the color, push it back. So yeah, there's stuff you can download for Photoshop. Okay, here I'm masking out the leopard so that I can add some shadows. Right now he's on one color or two. You gotta add some shadow to create some depth, and work on the hair a little bit to make it look like it's real. So I'm using a mask right now to separate the leopard from the background and what's around it. I should have put certain things in separate layers to avoid this, but oh well. It is what it is. So I just masked out everything, the tree that's in front and the trees that are behind, so that I can just work on the leopard. So I'm going to start throwing in some shadows. I adjust the illumination so it'll blend mode, whatever they call it. So it'll mix with the color behind it. Right now it's a little too dark. I'll be adjusting that. But see, now you can see more of a 3D look. Now the shadows is on top of the panther. There's light. There's sun hitting it from between the leaves. So now the panther. Oh, I keep calling it a panther, but it's a leopard. And I'll have to adjust the shadow, blur it a little bit till it finally looks like okay. Now you can see the 3D effect. Working on the hairs a little bit. I'm rushing this so it doesn't look that well. If I had color pencils, I guess you can do really good. You could be really good in drawing hairs when you draw with pencils. Like I said, I'm using a mouse, so I'm just going back and forth. I adjust the pen tool so it'll, yeah. Some things don't look right to me, I fix it. So I finally get it right. Okay, here I saw something I didn't like, so I'm adjusting. Panther wasn't long enough. Head was too big. Just little things like that. That just, like I said, I rushed this. I wasn't paying attention to the proportion or anything. I just wanted to draw, scan it, and work on it without thinking that I was just gonna do that real quick and not post this. But it started to look pretty good, so I continued on. But I noticed that pan the leopard was leopard's head was a little too big. Kind of looked like a cat instead of a leopard. So just making the head smaller, but I already had everything tied in together, so I messed up with the layers. So I had to go back in there and separate the background from the foreground and trying to redraw around the leopard. So I'm not gonna go back to the original. It's good to save something, save it, keep it for later. But once you seal it and you start flattening the layers and you see something wrong, you have to really go through some trouble to get it back. So you gotta save what you've done so you can always go back and fix things. There's no need for me to work on those whiskers after I already drew it and then flattened it. So that was my mistake. But you live and learn, like they say. Sometimes you don't see things until you're done. So always keep a copy of the different layers. So if you do have to go back, you won't go to the trouble that I'm doing right now. And I'm still rushing this. I'm just wanted to post something real quick. I'm still learning how to use videos, talk over video, audio, and stuff. So it's a combination of stuff that you have to know to get stuff uploaded in YouTube, and hopefully you create an audience or something, you know. So this concludes this drawing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you real soon. Till next time.